Greetings Internet, Didier here, and welcome to my first Set 10 FanZ deck profile video that I'm officially putting my stamp of approval on. This is none other than my girl, Videl, in the best version of Videl that you're gonna get. So without further ado, let's get right started here and check out the list. So let's scan over the list real quick. You can see massive amount of stage and physical pressure, a little bit of board control, a few one-ofs. We got targets here for Unleashed. Many, like I said, many physical blocks. And light on the energy blocks, and we got, of course, Unleashed and some tech cards here. Not too many, though, but you know you gotta play 3 Red Restriction. And I say that Videl Ruthless is the best version of Videl because there is no other Videl that complements her setting of the AT more than the automatic +2 stages, automatic anger lower, extreme pressure of Ruthless Mastery, as well as the innate anger of Red style, pushing you up to the upper levels of Videl, which is where you want to be, even faster. So now, let's go over the attacks. So these are the attacks that we're working with. We play an extremely high volume of attacks. I think about 37 attacks in this build. So we'll start out here, Red Sword Stab. We got bread and butter. I mean, 3 endurance, AT +4, can't go wrong. And gains in anger, can't go wrong. Red Furious Lunge is in here because of the anger. The hit 2 anger is really nice, and endurance, it does a lot of damage too at AT +4. I wouldn't really want to play, and you don't really want to play many things that cost stages in Videl, because you might think in your head, well, Didier, why don't you run that, I can't remember the name of it, I think it's Red Cross Attack or something like that, the one that you pay 4 stages to gain 2 anger. The problem is, Videl is super friggin' weak. Like, she is always an A. So you're going to get knocked down a lot. Any aggressive deck is just going to keep you at 0 for the entire game. So you're really not going to have the stages very much to pay for those kind of attacks. So Furious Lunge is in here. So Double Strike is MVP. This card alone can get you 4 anger on level 1. If ever I draw a Double Strike in my first top 3 cards, 9 times out of 10 I enter combat. Unless, even if I'm a card down, even if they went first and I draw my 3 and I get 1 Double Strike, usually I'll still enter combat, unless specific situations tell me not to. Heel Kick at 3, obvious, but this card is even more amazing on level 1 because it'll actually gain you innately 2 anger, so it can self-activate. Even if you're at 0 anger on level 1, which is just money and spectacular. We got 3 Mule Kicks here for a couple reasons. One, because if you get wall breakered on level 1, it's pretty much done. It kills you pretty hard. Another reason is because just attached cards are very prominent in the meta. So that is a big reason why that we play Mule Kick in here. Obviously, because 2 endurance also, and it gains an anger, just there are a lot of attached cards running around, and you'll find this really strong when your opponent attaches a black capture on you. Sometimes it's a little difficult for Videl to crit in the early stages of the game, so Mule Kick will just add so much packing power to your deck. Got Tandem Attack here at 3. This deck doesn't have that much raw card advantage besides the heel kicks and maybe the double strikes, the single Shattering Leap. But other than that, not too much card advantage, and black is running so rampant in the meta right now. So obviously, black running rampant in the meta, them playing Smoothness Drill, it's very easy for you to get a draw off this. And again, we play 37 attacks, so chances are you're going to draw an attack. Also, the random discard can very easily trigger this, get you an anger and a card draw, and the additional card draw from performing an attack from your hand. So it can refill your hand very easily, and it's just something that they may not be expecting if they have activate their mastery and you discard this card. It could really swing the game in your favor. Got 3 power lifts here, straight up money, will win you the brawly matchup, will win you any physical beatdown matchup. It's in here for defensive burst, and we know that, and obviously it's very strong with the Ruthless Mastery being able to be done twice. We got Collision at 3, and this is a recent add to this specific version. This is my updated version, and I added in 3 Collision here for a couple reasons. One, because I play a few 1-ofs now, and 1 2-of, that I wanted to be able to tutor at a moment's notice, different options. I wanted even more endurance in this deck, and I wanted the passive anger gain that this can give you if you draw early game and you just sit it on the top of your discard pile. I found that the only games that I would lose with Videl were games that I wasn't hitting level 3 early enough. So I needed to pack enough anger into this deck to be able to hit level 3 consistently by second or third combat every single game, and this Collision card adds to that, just adds to that very well. Gives you that little bit of extra anger as well as tutoring from the discard pile. Forceful Strike at 2, I didn't think I originally needed Forceful Strike in here because of the amazing level 3, which we'll get to later. But Forceful Strike is needed in this meta. It's a heavy black, heavy control, heavy orange meta. You need additional board control for early game. If your opponent sets up a nasty board against you early game and you're not level 3 yet, you could just get run over by a board state. So you just need these answers. And I played it at 3, but I dropped it down to 2 because I added 3 Collision, which you can get away with Collision. Shattering Leap here at 1, and remember, I taught, someone asked me, well, actually, my fellow Videl advocate, Shane, asked me, yo, dude, why are you running Shattering Leap at 1? Is it even worth it at 1? And I would say yes, for a few reasons. One, I talked about earlier, you're not going to have that much stages with Videl. This card costs 2 stages to use, and there are some matchups that you're not going to be able to use it. Just simply. In the matchups that you can use it, it is very valuable. And you can certainly reuse it with the Ruthless Mastery. You can reuse it with Collision. And it just becomes very strong at that point. The other thing you have to consider with this card, unlike Double Strike, who also pushes you up levels, Shattering Leap truly is a win more card. You need to be at an advantage for this card to be good. It needs to hit, you need to have stages, and you need to be at least level 2 or level 3 for it to be even useful. So I just dropped it down to 1, but I like it at 1 and I use it a lot. Trailing Blast at 3 just for Unleashed. The 2 endurance is amazing, and we'll get into why later why this card is so good. Because essentially, bouncing the Trailing Blast to your hand gives you free fodder for your Mastery activation, and it's just so good, so good, guys. And the late game hit mill too with the 3 life cards. They just won't be expecting it. They'll have only a few life cards left, and then you'll throw the only energy attack in your deck. They won't be expecting it, and they'll lose the game because of it. Now, it's no secret that this card was massively buffed, and I mean it's massive. Okay, here's the thing: this card was terrible before, and I'm gonna tell you why. It was just so bad. It was low damage. The anger wasn't guaranteed. If you drew this early game, it was just so terrible. And then even drawing it mid-game wasn't that good. Like, even if you were level 3, it wasn't even that good because they needed to have 3 or 4 specific cards on the board in order for it to even have an effect, even have a valuable effect. So more often than not, it was just a vanilla physical for AT plus 3, hit, raise 1 anger. AT plus 3, hit, raise 1 anger is not a good card. It's not a named card. This is a good card. This is a named card. This is now a card. It's now strong enough to be actually considered a named card. This is Videl's Eagle Kick. And people are going to hate you for it. As they should. This is your name card. This is your bread and butter. This is Videl. And you're going to smack them in the face with your boot. 3 Dev Blows, of course. I mean, come on, people. If Dev Blow is a 9, Dev Blow in Videl is an 11. Okay? This is an amazing card, and I played it at 2 for a while in here because of non-style count, but I bumped it up to 3 just because it's just needed. Dev Blow is so important in this meta. Not just for the anger lower. The 3 banish is so important in Namekian matchups. Those Namekian decks are going to be cycling Namek Ball 7 3 to 4 times a game very easily with the Enlightened Mastery. And Supreme Kai, guys. Supreme Kai is a force. And you need to be doing 2 to 4 Dev Blows a game against Supreme Kai if you want to gain a foothold on him. You need to be banishing those attacks from his discard pile. His blocks. Get those blocks out of his discard pile. Get those leverages out of his discard pile. Banish them with Dev Blow and win the game. Now, this guy I added in because I realized, much like how I needed board control early game, I was having difficulty critting early game with Videl. So, people always talk about how she sets AT, she has pretty good damage. Yeah, she has pretty good damage compared to, like, Yamcha, but not compared to any of the strong MPs like Brawly or Goku or Gohan. She does not have damage compared to any of those. Or even the new Piccolo stack way out damages her. The value that you get in Videl is your techie options. And until you get to the level 3, you're not pushing that much damage. So critting is hard. And I felt like I needed the single knee lift in here for ally matchups that set up a board quickly, for Supreme Kai to kill Kibito, for Gohan to kill Ox King, and of course, again, with the collisions, we're able to use this card multiple times a game very easily. So that's it for the attacks, guys. So now let's go over the blocks and events. So these are the events and blocks that we're working with. We got 9 blocks and I think 11 events. Now this isn't an event, Determination, but it's like a pseudo event. It doesn't do damage, and it is a physical combat, so they can't sphere it. It doesn't do damage. It just gives you a really awesome effect. And you can see here I only played it 2, and this was a really hard decision for me, guys. I played it at 3 in this deck for a very, very long time, and just inevitably, with this card, I felt I had to apply the logic that if I play 3 of a card, I need to be okay with having 2 copies of it in my hand. Because there's not a high chance of that happening, but there's a possibility of it happening. So if you have 2 Determinations in your hand, you're pretty hosed. Unless you're on 3. If you're on 2, you're pretty hosed. Because if you only have 2 attacks in your hand and you have 2 Determinations, then chances are your opponent has 2 blocks, and then you'll be just sitting with 2 Determinations in your hand at the end of combat, just wishing you hit 1 attack. Also, another reason for only playing 2 of these is the best part of this card. Both part of this card are amazing. The 7 banish and the skip. You don't really need the 7 banish because we play 3 Dev Blows, but in certain matchups like Supreme Kai and Namekian, that 7 banish can really go a long way. But the 7 banish is only good late game. So when you play this as a 2 of, so late game, that's when it provides the value. Skip is really good again, but you really need the hand to set it up. If you enter combat with an Unleashed, a Determination, a Sphere, and a physical attack, that's just a really bad hand. So you can see now, just with the combos with this deck, that's why I dropped it to 2 Determination, as well as the Black Mastery makes you not want to draw, and 17 makes you not want to draw, so that's the reason why it's at 2. Of course, here with events, the reason that you don't see Confrontation in this deck is because if you play Restriction, in my opinion, you shouldn't run Confrontation, because I've ran like 2 Sphere, 2 Confrontation, and the amount of times that I would enter Restriction and then of the 2 cards I draw Confrontation, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to drop it. It just made me so frustrated every time that happened. And it happened too much for my liking, so no Confrontation in here. Run the 2 Spheres. This card is, you need it in this meta. Retribution Mastery, Enlightened Mastery, Mischievous Mastery, lots of masteries, just so many things that this card shuts down. You play 37 attacks, and trust me when I say This is definitely going to hurt your opponent more than it hurts you. 2 spheres. I've often thought about going to 3 on this guy, but again, aggressive deck. The spheres that I have in here have won me games easily, but the 3 might be overkill, so I keep it at 2. Unleashed. This is an Unleashed build, and that is the best Videl build, is Unleashed. Possibly Ret MPPV, but Unleashed is where it's at for Videl, because you want to get to these guys right here. You camp 3 on control, you camp 4 on beatdown, and you can jump between the 2 in certain situations. That's where you want to be, always. So games that you get in Unleashed are games that you are happy-go-lucky, and you want this card. And this also replenishes itself if you get a Trailing Blast, which you will most often. Trailing Blast is then bounced to your hand, and you get a free attack with the Mastery. Red Observation. Pretty much the best card in Videl. I've won so many games by clearing my opponent's entire board. And you're going to see why soon, that we only play 3 planning cards in this entire deck. And they're when entering combat. So quite literally, even if I have them in play, even if I draw into Observation, I can just pop all my Red Relaxations when entering combat, enter with Observation, and just make the opponent cry. And the beauty of this card is that you set to 0, but Videl don't care about no setting to 0. I'm always doing damage. This card will win you games against Orange, it will win you games against Namekian, and it will definitely win you games against Black when they have 3 black power-ups on the board, they thought they've won the game, and you enter and Red Observation and just ruin their day. Time is the Warrior's Tool is obvious. We only play 1 energy block in here, and it was hard for me to drop Escape out of here, but in the matchups that energy blocks matter, I wanted the recycling of this card. More often than not, because I play a low energy block count, the Escape just really wasn't helping me. Often I would already be on level 4, or I would escape and my opponent would end combat. There were just very many situations where the Escape wasn't helping me, but the Anger, Lower, and Rejuvenation of this card will always help you. Additionally, the 2 Endurance will always help you in every matchup because it's Endurance in your deck. Single energy block because this deck is ultimate stage pressure and we don't need that much energy defense. I added in a single copy of Red Reverse in here for 2-fold. 1, because I wanted a 4th Unleashed target. 3-fold actually. 2, because I wanted an Unleashed target that was going to stick on me so that I could actually de-level the opponent via Unleashed if I wanted. So I have 1 target in here that I can just drop off of me if I want to de-level them via Unleashed. And then additionally, it makes all my styled energy attacks 2+2 life cards. Trailing Blast now hits for 5. This card rounds out the deck as its 7th hard physical block. 7th hard physical block. Defensive Burst, be damned. And more Endurance. Red blocking hand, best physical block in the game, probably. Close to it. Red blocking hand. Resourceful Block. I've had Jordan, one of the other Videl players, talk to me in North Carolina about this. He asked me, Didier, Red Resourceful Block, are you sure? Absolutely, I'm sure. And 3 of this. It's not even just because of the Endurance, although that is a nice caveat to this. 3 Endurance, can't go wrong with that. The main reason is that Videl has 2 big combos with Red Resourceful Block. You are level 2, you drop down to 1, get a free level via her constant, boop, and then suddenly you're level 3. If you do that, you start out the game so strong, immediately jumping to level 3. The other combo, it's super late game, you've already unleashed maybe, you're level 4. But you need that little bit of crit, you need that board control, you want that extra attack. Drop down from 4 to 3, bounce that stretch kick from play to the top of your opponent's life deck. And if you saw the match against Resourceful Brawly, you saw how much value this card had. So that's it for the events and blocks, guys, and now let's go over the planning. Alright guys, Pretty simple section. Here's the planning cards that we play. 3 Red Relaxation. That is it. I played VTP in here for a while, but I dropped it because I don't want a non-style, non-combat in this deck. If I draw a card during combat and it's not a red card or an attack, I'm super upset. And too many times have I drawn VTP on the defense. Too many times have I activated Determination to draw VTP. I would much rather do 8 to 9 damage in a combat than draw a VTP for next combat, simply put. Alright? So that is why VTP is not in this deck. I don't need it. I got Collision at 3. I got some extra board value, board state value with Red Relaxation and Drawing. I don't need VTP. I got Ruthless Mastery for the extra consistency in the attacks that I see. Don't need it. The reason we run this at 3, Kibito. Supreme Kai is just very difficult. He's a very strong personality, and there's nothing worse than entering on your opponent who's thinking, you know, oh, I got this game. I got Kibito in play. There's no way my opponent's going to enter on me. Well, you drop a Relaxation, enter with an even hand, crit Kibito when entering combat before they get a chance to draw with them. It can be detrimental, and it can win you the game in that combat alone. Excellent card, 3 of always. So now, let's go over the strategy section. Alright, so now we're going to go over the strategy section and how you're going to win with Videl. Pretty much with Videl, you start out really weak. You're pretty much going to be doing 0 damage. Your first few attacks, you may just say 0 to your opponent. Oh, physical for 0. Physical for 0. Physical for 2. Physical for 3. They're just not coming in for much. And because of that, and because of the ability of her power to gain anger whenever you perform an attack that uses the AT, you want to get off this level as fast as possible. Literally, this level is designed to get you to level 2. So, some of the cards that you will see that you'll want to go aggressive on, I said this earlier, Double Strike, the best card ever. Single card for anger. It almost doesn't even matter what you have in your... It actually doesn't matter what you have in your hand. This alone is 5 anger. This power and this card. So having this card solely will gain you a level. Although you will do literally 0 damage. 0, 0, 0. It's okay. You're getting to level 2. That's the most important part. Other cards, if you draw a Heel Kick, any other attack in your hand you use for free. So if you have like a Sword Stab, you open Sword Stab, get 2 anger, Heel Kick for 2, you're still at 2 anger because it gains 2, Sword Stab again up to 4 anger, and then Power for the 5th anger. It is very easy for you to get to level 2 with Videl. Pretty much every game you're going to want to enter, if you can, turn 1. If you can. There are some decks that you're not going to want to do that with. Mainly decks that immediately generate value, like Trunks, Draku, or Gohan Vengeance. Do not enter against them at a disadvantage, because you can get yourself in a bad situation if they disrupt your anger, and then next combat they start with all that advantage that they just generated. You could put yourself in a really bad spot. You need to know when to go aggressive. It is very easy for you to get just locked at level 1, and if you do get locked on level 1 with Videl, you will lose the game. You need to level. So you're going to hit level 2 pretty quick. Level 2 is good. It's not that good in this deck, but it is important for you to remember that you have a 2 anger lower on your power and a hand cycle. So if you draw into a block or something that you don't really want, you can just discard it and draw a card. And don't forget that you have the 2 anger lower. The 2 anger lower and the Ruthless Mastery add up to make you be able to lock most MPPV decks early game, which is great. You can jump up to the level 2 in the first combat super easy, and then once you're at this level 2, hopefully you leveled faster than your opponent. If your opponent's an MPPV deck, you usually can, because everything you play gains 2 or 3 anger. So hopefully you can level faster than them, and if you do, then they'll have 3 or 4 anger when you hit this level, immediately activate your power, lower that anger, and start at an advantage next combat. Enter combat, immediately lower their anger again with your power, and then start the train. The train being that all your AT damage is now 3. So she actually starts doing valuable damage now, which is great. 3 isn't that much. That's C bracket, okay? So it's good, it's consistent, meaning with the mastery and her power, your AT plus 3s are coming in for 8, but it's not so good that you're going to feel like you're a force to be reckoned with. You still have to enter in combat with good hands. You still have to be mindful of what your opponent is doing. You cannot be mindless on this level. This level is not good enough to do that. So there's a lot of anger in here, and Unleashed, you'll find yourself getting to level 3 fairly quickly, hopefully by combat 2 or 3. That would be ideal. Against control matchups, I've said this several times, and I get ridiculed for it by the New Jersey guys, Kevin and Kelly. They say I'm wrong when I say this, but Videl's level 3 is the best board control power in the game. And I will say that because she affects every single card on the board except attached cards. There is no other power in the game that affects so much on the board than Videl level 3. And this card with Justice Kick has the potential for a 4-card swing in the middle of combat. You play Justice Kick? Oh, sorry, Eagle Kick. Although this Eagle Kick is for Justice. You play Eagle Justice Kick for Justice and for Eagles, and you will just decimate the opponent with this 4-card swing on level 3. You either double crit or you bounce a setup and drill. This power will swing you the game, and I've been down 20 cards on my opponent, gotten to level 3, and completely swung the game because of the value shift that is on level 3. And this is what I was saying earlier when I said that you need to hit level 3, because you do. And that's why we play Collision, to get that little bit of extra anger, just to make sure that we get there. So if you want to be here against control, you want to be on level 4 against Beatdown. 10 stages or Rejuvenate 3. 10 stages for stage pressure decks, or Rejuvenate 3 against energy decks. Now it is important to note that the level 4 was clarified to be when you perform an attack, you activate the constant. So there's a little caveat here that if I would say play an anger card and I level from 3 to 4, I am neither getting my 3 constant nor my 4 constant. So this is going to hit like a pillow. So it's going to do like 5 damage, or if you do a double strike, it'll just do 2 damage, or if that's 0, maybe 3 damage. You're not going to get either, because you're going to lose the constant as soon as you level, and then you've already passed the when perform window after you're in the immediate effect window of the anger that you're getting. So it's sad, yes, it's going to be a little bit disrupted to Videl's game plan, but we'll just have to deal with it. We'll have to deal with it via an amazing Eagle Kick. Now, it is also important to note that Eagle Kick is an immediate effect, so likewise, you won't get both choices when you play Eagle Kick. You'll have to choose first. You'll choose AT5 or hit, and then for every attack you do after that, you'll get both for everything. So that's also important to note. So if you want to play Eagle Kick, you need to make sure you play that early combat when you're on level 4. The longer you wait, the worse off you're going to be. And just like the best thing about this power is it is a 20 damage swing. You're doing AT plus 5, set to 5, 10 damage, knocking a personality clean to 0, 10 stages, as well as gain 10 stages yourself. So it's just high value, great card, love Videl for. It wins. It wins games if you get here. So, and that's what this whole deck is designed to do. So you're going to be seeing me play this deck. You're going to be seeing me winning tournaments with this deck, and I hope you guys like it. This is, in my opinion, the best Videl deck, because Videl wants to be on level 3 and 4, and no deck does Unleashed, and no deck does Anger quite like Red Ruthless. Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby. Until next time, we got a lot more decks coming, so we'll see you and stay tuned.